everyone, to the Obtuse Angles podcast with Kyle and Jeremy. Kyle Fields, former indie worker, current stand-up comedian, podcaster, by God, radio broadcaster. Jeremy, bam, bam, boom, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Iron Mike, the professor, the southern dandy, Flyboy, the golden child. 10 minutes on other side of putting a ham in the smokehouse, Stackoli, Sutherland. Also, a comedian, podcaster, IT man to the dang old stars, and today, my co-pilot onto this flight of the gritty undercrust of the 1990s Los Angeles hip-hop game. We're talking Suge Knight's craziest moments. Jeremiah, what's crack-a-lackin'?
Not much is crack-a-lackin', man. I just got in from our nation's capital. Been there all last week.
Oh, is that so? I thought I saw you on TV. I thought I did.
Yeah, that was me. I was the guy with the goatee wearing the Make America Great Again hat.
Nah, you're gonna have to be more specific than that. I don't know.
Oh, you saw me. I was the guy with the Marlboro cigarettes windbreaker.
You're gonna have to be more specific than that.
Oh, come on, you saw me. I was the guy who had his wife there, and she had the black eye for some reason that we don't talk about.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We could do this all day. I'm just going to have to go back over the tape. Hey, everybody. Normally we are hashtag Evergreen Man, but let's not call it the fall. Let's say when the autumn of democracy happens. We got to acknowledge it every now and then. What's going on? Speaking of our hashtag Evergreen Man episodes, go back, check them out right now at obtuseangles.libsyn.com, man. What does that mean, hashtag Evergreen Man? I've had people ask me, Kyle, I hear you say it. I hear all the kids on the street saying this. I'm seeing people walking around with the t-shirts. It's all the rappers are rapping about it. What does hashtag Evergreen Man mean? Well, I'll tell you, it means these shows are not time sensitive, man. We designed them that way. We made them so you could go back, you could discover us, you could, get out of rehab, whatever our listeners do. And when you do, check them out, man. Go back again like this. Hey, if you want to hear more music-centric episodes of this show, we did Gigi Allen. That's one of our more popular ones. We did a couple of months ago, the band Mayhem and their relation to church burnings. You like more true crime stuff? We got a ton of that. We got pop culture, all of that, so much more at obtuseangles.libsyn.com. Of course, listen to us wherever you do. Hit subscribe every single Monday. We are hot. We are on the ground running. Jeremiah, what do you say we just get this one running, right?
Let's do it.
We first started talking about this episode and we were like, okay, maybe we should do, the craziest rock and roll moments of all time, which we are going to do. But as I was doing the research for that, I saw a list and it said, the 100 sleaziest moments in rock and roll. I was like, boom, that's it. And then I got to Suge Knight. And then I went down the Suge Knight rabbit hole, as I'm sure so many young men and ladies did throughout the 90s. And I saw all of this crazy, because I knew, okay, Suge Knight, he co-founded Death Row Records. He was involved in the East Coast, West Coast feud. I knew that, right? I knew that, he was in the car with Tupac when Tupac was shot. But that was pretty much it. I know he's in prison now. I know the rumor that he assaulted Vanilla Ice by dangling him off a balcony, which is fucking hilarious to me. But out of all of that crazy shit that Suge Knight did, we're not even going to be mentioning most of that on this episode. This is some of the other crazy shit that I didn't know or I kind of knew about Suge Knight. I mean, Jeremy, you got to admit, like, you have a lot in common with 90s rappers, right? Like both of you.
Wait. No. Go ahead. You were saying.
All right. Both of you love fucking black women, and that's pretty much where it ends. But my point is, like, you got to, and again, Suge Knight, as we're going to see, is the biggest piece of shit of all time. I cannot stress that enough. He's in jail, and when he dies, it won't be a day too soon. But he lived a crazy life, and in terms of being basically like Scarface in real life, because every rapper, especially in the 90s when gangster rap was, of course I'm so white, I pronounce it gangster rap. Like, yeah, as if they're rapping about Tommy guns and breaking the prohibition. But when everybody since the 90s, in gangster rap was rapping about this crazy life. And, in the varying cases, it was authentic, right? But Suge Knight, the guy that, to my knowledge, never appeared on anybody's diss tracks in terms of rapping, Suge Knight, man, lived like he really was that guy. Like he was the guy that every rapper was talking about. This is the article. This is from Medium.com, the most brutal assaults of Suge Knight. And it's so brutal it has a trigger warning on it, which normally I hate, but it's kind of appropriate, I guess, for this. In what may be the most inappropriate nicknaming of all time, Marion Knight Jr. That's right, Marion Knight is this badass mother. It's like a boy named Sue, isn't it? He named it, Daddy fucking named him Marion and stepped off. Marion Knight was called Sugar Bear as a child because his mom thought he was just so sweet. Think about that for a goddamn minute. Fucking Sugar Bear. Like, as if Marion is not embarrassing enough. His mom was like, no, son, I don't want you ever to get pussy. Let's name you Sugar Bear. And I love that motherfucker owned it too. Like, obviously he dropped the second syllable, but like he leaned into the Suge. I didn't know it was for Sugar Bear. I honestly thought it was because he had diabetes.
I think when you have a reputation like Suge Knight has, he could make his name Dildo Farnsworth and people would still be like, that motherfucker.
Unfortunately, as you're going to see over the next couple of minutes, a couple of people over the years did, in fact, fuck with old Dildo Farnsworth. Suge grew, man. 6'2", 250 pounds, which I know doesn't seem like a lot. But because honestly, when you look at Suge Knight and you hear all the stories, I was surprised he was just 6'2" and 250. Don't get me wrong. That's a big motherfucker, like especially with the stature that he had. But I thought he was going to be like 6'9" and, at least 380. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think what adds to that is his larger than life character and like all the stories that like you've heard about him. I think it makes him bigger. Like he grows with every piece of fiction that kind of goes out about him. He grows a little. He's
like Bill Brasky. One time I heard that Suge Knight punched a hole through a cow just to see who was coming down the road. His watch is set to hell time. That was one of my favorite. Anyway. Nobody liked that joke. Anyway, let's continue. Suge was a big motherfucker, as they say, and we're going to continue with the article here. He also grew to be violent, egotistical, and perhaps downright insane. Let's just go ahead and start the article with a couple of people, Lin Wood and George Stanley. Back when Death Row Records was just beginning to take off, Dr. Dre asked a pair of aspiring rappers, Lin Wood and George Stanley, to come in for a recording session. For the two, it was a dream come true, at least until Suge Knight, he decided to stop by the studio. Now listen to how gangsta every single word of this is. Lin Wood needed to make a call and picked up the closest phone he could find. But what he didn't realize is that phone was reserved for calls from drug kingpin Harry O, the main financer of Death Row, who was in prison who was in prison with very limited telephone access. So Death Row was being financed by a drug kingpin in prison, and they had the bat phone that was specifically... So unfortunately, old Lin Wood did not know that. He picked up the bat phone, and Suge spotted Lin Wood, and he came over to talk. Now, to Suge Knight's credit, which are words I never thought I'd say in a million years, Suge gave him a chance to walk away peacefully, telling Lin Wood, quote, "Say, blood, don't be on that phone."
So you're telling me the guy didn't immediately pee his pants and drop the phone and walk away?
I'm sorry, if a man who looks like Suge Knight starts anything with "Say, blood," I'm going to do what he asks. "Say, blood, jump out that fucking window right there." Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll do that immediately. To which Lin Wood, clearly not knowing who he was dealing with, said, quote, "Don't be coming at me with all that gangbang shit. I'm not from L.A." Ooh, Are you scared now?
Does that make him immune to a fucking beating? Is that what, like Suge has powers. He has superpowers, but apparently they only work on people in the greater Los Angeles area, or
Yeah, right. What I love about that is, as I was reading this earlier, I knew what was coming, and when I read that line, I was like, "Oh my god!" I felt like in The Mandalorian when, like, you know, some dumbass alien is getting ready to shoot Mando, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's coming! He's going to do something crazy." That's what I felt like there. An embarrassed Suge responded with, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you're not from L.A. Please use all my phones." No, I'm just kidding. He pulled a gun on him. He pulled a goddamn gun, and then he proceeded to make both the Stanley brothers strip down to their underwear and even fired a shot into the wall of his own studio to emphasize his anger. He then beat both of the men to a bloody pulp. To ensure the two were sufficiently terrified, he took both of their IDs so he could easily find them should they be stupid enough to contact the police.
That is so fucking gangster. That is so gangster.
Shockingly, that's exactly what they did as soon as they were released. They went to the police. And now here's what now you hear this, you go, "Oh man, Suge's in for it now," right? Like,
so where did they find their bodies?
That's not gangster enough for Suge. So how did Suge Knight defend himself in court? Well, he gave the prosecuting attorney's daughter a record deal.
That's like the best possible defense, too.
Yes, he literally bought off their defense with the promise of a recording contract. Thankfully, the prosecutor, Larry Longo, was fired from the LA District Attorney's Office. Man, I'm starting to think that LA in the 90s might have been a little bit of a seedy place. I don't know. Something just makes me think it. Let's continue 1993 with a motherfucker named Devontae Swing. I'm going to read this from the article, and this is from the article. Now, I should preface this with the acknowledgement that this particular incident is heavily shrouded in rumor, even more so than the average Suge horror story, and may not be connected to the man at all. But many people have theories. In 1994, and I know I'm going to get this wrong, and I could have Googled it, but fuck it, I don't give a shit. Jodikai, I think. Jodikai was one of the biggest R&B groups in the country. Have you heard of these young men, Jeremy? Jodeci.
I've heard of Jamiroquai.
Jamiroquai. God, no, that was the whitest group in the country. Nothing is whiter than Jamiroquai. The motherfucker with that goddamn 90s festival hat. Doing a two-step with a couch in a video. That's the widest shit ever. So Jodikai, not to be confused with Jamiroquai, were considered the bad boys of the genre, and many of their hits were soulful and seductive, and they maintained a street image in both look and attitude. They had a hugely successful album released on Uptown Records, Forever My Lady, under the guidance of a young Sean Puffy Combs, before he struck it out with his own Bad Boy Records. But here's the problem. Things started going a little sideways for the young hitmakers around 93 when they became acquainted with old Suge Knight. They began hanging around Suge and even flirted with the idea of leaving Uptown for Death Row Records. And of course, like we said, that's the record company that Suge co-founded. And doing what Suge does best, he either assaulted or threatened to assault the Uptown founder, Andre Harrell, who then, wouldn't you know it, released Jodikai so they could go to... It's so funny that like all of Suge's plans work out. It's never like he beats somebody up and intimidates them. No, they always do what he wants them to do. Like, he's more terrifying than like God or the devil.
He's like the Debo of the Los Angeles hip hop scene.
Oh, I think he's way scarier than Debo, man, because both of Suge's eyes are working. You know what I'm saying? R.I.P. Tiny Lister, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to continue in the article. And then something happened as violent as it was mysterious. Oh, and by the way, Jodikai, when they were let out of their record label, they decided not to go. After Suge went to all that work, assaulting the god. Anyway, in July of 93, Jodikai member Devontae Swing, who handled much of the music production, was the victim of a brutal home invasion that nearly took his life. He was tied up and beaten on the head until his skull split open. In the bloody scuffle, Yeah, in the bloody, yeah, brother did color the hard way on that. Swing managed to chew off the finger of the assailants. God damn. They made out with $20,000 worth of jewelry and other valuables, and Devontae did survive, but he was never the same. You think? You fucking think after having your goddamn head split open? He began having mental issues and substance abuse problems. He then had writer's block. He had writer's block. Again, you think? Which led to Jodakai's demise a few years later. He even tried to start his own label, but was apparently so abusive to his artists that they all left. Jodakai have attempted several reunions ever since, but poor Devontae has had a series of embarrassing public displays that have kept a full-scale comeback from happening. So Suge, and of course the theory is not that Suge was the guy who split his head open, but that Suge probably sent the motherfucker who got his fingers bitten off. Wouldn't that be crazy if like the next week Suge showed up and his fingers were missing? Oh my God.
And he'd still be able to convince you it wasn't him.
Oh yeah, man, it wasn't me, blood. What are you talking about? Yeah, I guess you're right. Now this something at this point, Jeremy, of the article caught my attention, and I want to see if you can see what I'm saying. On the rare occasions that members of Jodakai mention the incident, they seem to be vague about who they think were involved. Like in a recent interview on Vlad TV where Swing's bandmate / brother, Mr. Dalvin, offered simply, quote, "There's been a lot of speculation." That's like the most diplomatic thing you could possibly say.
They've still not spoken up about who exactly assaulted them to this day.
But let me continue because let's see if you pick up on what I'm going to. But the rumors have been around since the night it happened. One version actually speculates that Suge's, quote, booty goons straight up sexually assaulted Swing in front of family members.
Oh my God.
I repeat that. Suge's booty goons. Now, I was reading this, and when I read this earlier, I laughed for 5 straight minutes. And
listen to me.
Rosalind was.
Listen to me. Let me ask you this. What's more scarier to you? Let's say you get in with Suge Knight, all right, you owe him like 10 large, and you can't pay it for whatever reason. Somehow, just whatever the case may be, you get on Suge Knight's bad side. What's more scary to you? Suge Knight is coming over to your house to collect, or he's sending over the booty goons?
Nothing is scarier than Suge Knight sending over the booty goons. Speaking of the booty goons, I've never heard of the term booty goon. I laughed. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I'm not gonna like the booty goon thing really sealed the deal for me. Like when you called me and I was like, dude, we should do an episode on Suge Knight. It was because of the booty goon thing. It was because I laughed so hard that Suge Knight. So I went down the booty goon rabbit hole. Think about that for a moment. And I Googled booty goon. And because I'd never heard of a booty goon. You know, why the fuck are we not just walking around calling each other that all the time? I'm going to start calling you a booty goon. According to Urban Dictionary, booty goon is an original term and has evolved to mean a homosexual male with a thuggish appearance or personality. That's you to a T, bro. That's you to a fucking T. You're always walking around.
Always.
You're walking. The example from Urban Dictionary says he's talking all that gangster shit in the street, but everybody know he a booty goon. So, as the resident booty goon here on the program, Jeremiah. So I kind of found some more. This is, I'm going to give it up, you know, because we are a hip hop podcast now, obviously, you know, for this 1 week. I want to give it up to a song on SoundCloud called Booty Goon from Kane Doggo. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but you're going to hear that under the podcast now because it's fat, as the kids say, Jeremy. It's just a rap beat. Do the kids say things are fat now? Are they fat?
Things are fat, yeah.
One more piece of Booty Goon news, and I gotta tell you, unfortunately, you didn't laugh at that as hard as I thought you would. I thought when I said Booty Goon,
I quite enjoyed Booty Goons.
I really thought, because when I saw Booty Goon, I was like, oh, me and Jeremy are probably going to riff on that for about 45 minutes. So I mean, I don't even plan anything else. I figured that you were going to be like, oh, let me tell you about my Uncle Booty Goon or whatever.
Well, I look, man, like I adore a Booty Goon just as much as anybody else. But you got to be careful because there's a really good chance. There's like 40 to 50% chance there's at least 3 different booty goons that listen to this podcast each week. And I don't want to get on their wrong. Right. I don't want to get on their bad side.
There's a booty goon in your neighborhood right now. Just fucking...
A booty goon right outside the window of my office listening.
If anyone's got a question, address it to Booty Goon, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. It'll get to Jeremy. But speaking of booty goons, one more piece of it. Apparently, Jeremy, and as I'm sure you know, Ray J called into the Breakfast Club one time, radio, and he was beefing with Fabulous. You know about this, right? Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I got my ear to the streets. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You were so white there, you sounded like the Richard Pryor white guy. Oh, I have my ear to the streets.
I actually sound like every single white guy that a black comedian does an impression of.
But here's what I love. I think that we need to incorporate more hip hop culture into our podcast because these motherfuckers are cutting better promos than Ric Flair. This is Ray J, all liquored up, cutting a promo on Fabulous. He says, quote, "I got 3 new Rolls Royces outside, and I'm tired of being humble with N-words, and I'm tired of being low-key. Now I'm about to pull out my motherfucking whips out." I don't know what that means. "I'm about to show all y'all what my cribs look like, and I'm about to roll my N-words and smack N-words up like they talking shit. Get Fab on the line now. I'll smack the shit out of that N-word. And then I'm gonna get my big homies on the phone like N-words, and they gonna rape that N-word. Bend over that N-word. Bend him over and stick him in the booty. I don't give a fuck."
I am enthralled. Is that all you got? Is that the whole interview?
What the fuck did I tell you, dude? Why don't we do more hip-hop shit on this show, bro? Like, see, that's the real stuff right there.
Look, man, I don't want to live the life. Do you understand? Like, I don't want to get entangled in that seedy. Like, I want to talk about it from, like, I want to be Sway. Like, I don't want to really have anything to do with their hip hop culture. I just want to fake it and be on the outskirts of it all. You know what I mean?
You think that was Sway, the MTV VJ in the late 90s? You think that was... That joke is for a very specific. That's for a very specific age group of people. The age group for that joke is as young as me and as old as you and everything in between. It's rare that you make a joke. But Jeremy, I know you were on the edge of your seat here. Unfortunately, Ray J admits that he did not, in fact, send his booty goons to go rape Fabulous. I'm going to get Fab on the line now. I'll smack the shit out of him, but then I'll have my big homies on the phone. They'll rape him.
Bend him over and stick him in the bank that. Next time they call about the mortgage being late, I'm telling them I'm sending over my booty goons to handle it.
Booty goon. Can I don't, and look, I'm not using it as a slur for homosexuals. I just think a booty goon is the greatest insult of all time. I mean, it has to be. You fucking booty goon. That was like when fucking, I've said it before, that's like when Stevie Ray was cutting a promo on, I think it was Rick Steiner one time, and he called him a, quote, slack-ass fruit booty. Like, that's just the most beautiful fucking insult.
A slack-ass fruit booty. I just picture, like, 2 guys that look like Terry Crews who just come over to your house
right.
and just fuck you up. Good God, that man is just, he's a big fucking muscle.
And he's so talented. Have you ever seen any
of his
paintings?
Yeah, he's super
It's talented. The most ridiculous shit. Like, acting is like the 9th best thing he does after like weightlifting and you know, painting and, well, let's be honest, probably folding laundry and anyway. But Ray J admits that he's sober now. You know, thank God he's got his headphones. You know, Christ Hallelujah, and he's okay. All right. So now that we've deviated back from the booty goon talk, which again I thought was going to be at least 3 hours, let's talk about a Happy Walters. A pretty ironic name for this man, seeing as how Suge made him not so much. Happy Walters was quite the mover and shaker in the hip hop industry in the early and mid 90s. He managed Cypress Hill, House of Pain, The RZA, and others. He released the much-acclaimed movie soundtrack, Judgment Night, along with many other well-received albums on Immortal Records, which he co-owned.
Do you remember the Judgment Night soundtrack?
I have no recollection.
It is hands down one of the dopest probably the dopest movie soundtrack that's ever been released. It took hip hop and mixed it with like metal. They did.
I gotta look this up.
System of a Down did a track with Wu-Tang, and I remember it specifically because it's the very first album that I ever ordered off of BMG. Do you remember BMG? Or Columbia House?
I have
Might
no
have been
idea.
Columbia House.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. Columbia, is that like the penny a day or whatever the fuck it was? I don't even remember.
You buy one CD or something, and then you get like 7 for a fucking penny and shit.
Did your mama beat the shit out of you after she found out that you were using her credit cards to get Columbia House records?
Well, that was the thing, is like I would buy the one and do the 7, but they would limit one per household. So I would just like send it to the neighbors, and I would keep an eye on their mail, and I'd run over and get my box off of their front porch.
You are shitting me. I'm telling you what, you motherfucker, you've been gaming the system since day one. Think about that. Think about all of the effort that you put into getting that one CD. That
Dude,
meant
my
that
entire CD collection. It wasn't just one. Like you bought one for like $12.99, then you got the next 7 for free, and then you had to buy the 9th one again for $12.99. So I would buy the one for $12.99, get the 7 for free, and I would never buy the last one.
Didn't anybody see you like looking in their mailbox? Oh, that weird Sutherland kid's back again, Thelma.
No, you just run over and grab it off their porch. I mean, now in hindsight, of course, that's a federal offense. Like that's mail fraud. I could have like totally went to prison for that.
What's funny is that when you said that's a federal offense, obviously my mind should have went to mail fraud, but I was like, what, scamming Columbia House? Oh my God. That had to be Mitch McConnell. Yeah, you know that Mitch McConnell, like all the corporate lobbying, Columbia House would like buy him a new boat, and the next fucking week you'd see him on the Senate floor going, "This is an absolute outrage. We have to ban these little kids stealing CDs from mailboxes." You could totally see it.
Dude, I built an impressive CD collection off of Scamming Columbia House,
great.
BMG.
That's great. And now you make me feel like a 145-year-old man, because instinctively what I want to yell is, and if you worked that hard at anything else, imagine how many CDs you could have bought. Like that, like it's in me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah.
even shit that I don't agree with, it's because of where I'm from and how much I've heard people say it. I just want to yell. I'll be like, I saw this woman at the store with food stamps on an Obama phone. Think about that. Like what? Why does that concern you? Why does that concern you?
Here's my question. How do they ever know? Does it say Obama phone on the back of it real big? There's the voice, there's the ringtones like, this is President Obama. How do they know it's an Obama phone? I never understood that. I've heard people bitch about that too before.
Right. Legit, the first time I heard anybody mention it was a stripper. I'm not kidding. I was talking. It was when I was working in the strip club, for the radio station. And I remember she was like, look at my Obama phone. And I was like, what the fuck? Jesus. That was great. Anyway, sorry. It was great times. What were we talking about again? Oh, not pussy. Yeah, that's right. Suge Knight. So, anyway, old Happy Walters, man, he released the Judgment Night soundtrack, which Jeremy sent us down this goddamn long ass rabbit hole. He eventually just disappeared one day. He's just gone. He's gone. Literally, he was taking his money out of an ATM in LA, and then he was nowhere to be seen for 48 hours. A missing persons report was filed. He eventually turned up 2 days later in Long Beach, covered in bruises and cigar burns. He was dazed and his head was shaved. When the cops asked him, oh my God, what happened? Who got you? He said, I don't know. I can't remember. See, all of this makes so much more sense because, like, every time I would read this, I would go, man, why not just tell the cops? Man, seriously, why not get because, I mean, Suge Knight doesn't deserve to go free. Why not prosecute him? And then I heard about the booty goons. And I was like, oh, shit, man.
It's so funny how everybody who ever has any sort of run-in with Suge Knight, it always ends with them having no recollection of whatever. They all sound like Kato Kalin on the fucking stand during the OJ trial. Like, no, I have no recollection of that.
I tell you what, I'm really happy. I love having you on this show, Jeremy, because I miss Jay Leno. I really do. I miss his jokes. I miss his go-to premises. And then we have you here, and it feels like we have Jay Leno. Kato Kalin. Oh, I do like. If you it's like an audio version of Highlights for Children. Every week you have to catch all of the OJ trial references on this show. Every week Jeremy sneaks in a Judge Eho joke. Kato Caitlin, of course, there's Johnny Cochran, Jeremy.
Marsha Clark.
Oh, there we go. See, oh my God, here we go. Jeremy just got done watching the FX series, and he can't shut up about it, I bet.
You know what's sad is I actually remember all that because I lived through it. Like, I think you're 5 years younger than me. I think I was 14 or 13 or 14 when all that shit was going on. So.
See, that makes sense. I was 8, and I remember like I was kind of, because I had no fucking idea who OJ was. I knew that he was in the Naked Gun movies. That's pretty much it. I was like, oh, the guy from the Naked Gun movies killed someone. Big deal. Who gives a shit, right?
I just remember that there was a black kid that I went to school with who ran up and down the hall screaming, we won when OJ got acquitted.
What? Oh, well, Happy Walters certainly didn't feel like he won. He told the cops, I don't know what happened. It's best if we don't even, it's best that we just leave this alone. It was also well known that Suge wanted Happy's client, RZA, for his upcoming Death Row album. Compared with the fact that Knight had poked fun at Suge on the Judgment Day soundtrack, it wasn't hard to figure out who was responsible. Why the fuck would you ever poke fun at Suge Knight? At that point, you're literally, I tell you what's safer is poking a literal bear. Like, it is safer, even at this point. And I know that Suge is in prison for the rest of his life now, and he can't see anymore, apparently, and he's got diabetes. I'm still terrified. Even at this point in time, walking into a literal bear's den with a stick, a lone stick, and poking a giant grizzly bear is safer than dropping a hot diss track against Suge Knight. What kind of fucking idiot would do that? Well, you're not going to believe this, Jeremy, but old Happy got out of the rap game after that. I can't believe it. You think that you stay around. I'll tell you another guy who did not stay around, a guy named Mark Anthony Bell, which somehow sounds like a presidential assassin's name. But no, Mark Anthony Bell, 1995, apparently this went down. I'm going to just continue reading this from the article. Everyone knows that Suge Knight's Death Row Records and Puff Daddy's Bad Boy weren't exactly chummy in the 1990s. But apparently no one told Bad Boy record promoter / friend Mark Anthony Bell that, who figured it was fine to just stop by a Death Row Christmas party in 1995. Oh.
Is that like their version of like the Office Christmas party? Like they have parties all year, but the one that is the most crunk is the Death Row Christmas party.
Can we just all bask in the joy of the fact that Death Row was having a party to celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Like that. A Death Row Christmas party. Oh my God. I feel like Chris Rock. A Death Row Christmas party. Well, good old Mark Anthony Bell, he didn't know. He didn't know better. He wanted to get old glass of eggnog. Suge approached Bell and insisted that he gave him Puffy's home address. Oh, no. Presumably not to mail him a ham. That's what the article says there. That's not. Well, when Bell refused, he was escorted upstairs where Suge, Tupac, and a few other associates proceeded to give him the old death row treatment. It's Christmas time. It's Christmas time. Let's see here. Suge Knight and Tupac literally tortured him by hitting him in the head with a champagne bottle, and then they forced him to drink a glass of piss. There's just so many fucking...
There's all these, like, borderline erotic things they do.
Man, I tell you what, I'm going to send my boys over there. They're going to butt fuck you. And I tell you what, they're going to give you a reach around, but right before you come, they're going to stop. They're going to stop. So you all excited and shit, you get that blue ball, sir, we going to do it.
Yeah, and while you sitting there blue ball, I'm going to make you drink my pee.
Yeah. Oh, God. Now you're getting me horny. Well, Bell reportedly attempted to jump from the balcony of the house. Oh, my God. That's how you know shit's real. When you're like, I'm going to jump off the balcony of this house. Whatever happens, whatever fate awaits me on that goddamn street below is more enticing than drinking Suge Knight's piss. But he was dragged back. He was dragged back into the room before he could. He somehow endured the abuse without ever giving up Puffy's address, and he was eventually permitted to leave. That Puffy better pay that motherfucker every day for the rest of his life. Yeah. Fucking, he drank piss for Puff Daddy. Piss for Puff Daddy? He drank piss for Puff Daddy. It wasn't even like, it wasn't even like it was Waylon Jennings. You know what I mean? Like some hero.
That sounds like a really bad like children's charity. Piss for Puff Daddy.
Yeah, except it'd be piss for R. Kelly. Send us your pee. Oh, anyway, he didn't give up old Puffy's address, and Bell pondered whether or not he should risk death by contacting the police or not. But he finally did after a few days. Now, Suge, of course, denied it all, stating, quote, "I don't piss in champagne glasses." That was his denial. Because, of course, he even has to be a gangster in his denial of that shit. But he eventually settled with Bell for a reported $600,000. I'm sorry. You beat me with a champagne glass and make me drink your piss. That's at least a cool meal. That's at least a cool meal.
Yeah.
And no, but I don't even think that they started with 600,000. You know, that sounds like they started with 5. Only a few years ago did Suge admit that forcing people to drink pee was something he did, saying about Bell on the Showtime series American Dream, American Nightmare, quote, "He probably drank 20 shots of piss," unquote. Oh. Now, see, it's like a fishing story. It gets bigger every time. At first, it was a glass. Yeah. Then it was 10 shots.
He had a 12-gallon bucket of piss, and he was just drinking out of it.
Hey, man, we literally had a fire hose, and it was connected to a septic tank. And that motherfucker, we put his whole goddamn mouth around that motherfucker. It was like a cartoon. You should have seen it. And we hit the goddamn switch, and piss shot out of every orifice of that motherfucker's body. Piss was coming out of his ears. Piss was coming out of his asshole. Sorry, I think I just wrote the new. Let's talk about Sam Snead, huh? Sam Snead started at Death Row Records mainly as a producer, working alongside Dr. Dre in the studio, but he also dabbled in rapping as well, and he appeared on Snoop Dogg's debut album, as well as on a solo track featuring Dr. Dre on the Murder Was the Case soundtrack. So he was very highly ingrained in the Death Row community. Well, things got a little shaky, though, towards the end of Death Row's run when Dr. Dre left the label that he co-founded to start his own. Well, obviously, Suge Knight was unhappy with Dre's decision, and Suge soon encouraged his roster to beef with Dre, which Tupac did on several tracks. Now, legend has it, one night at Suge's favorite restaurant, the straight out of The Godfather Monty Steakhouse, Sam was put on the spot to pledge his disloyalty to his good friend Dr. Dre. Oh, I bet that was a fun time. Sam Snead was already on thin ice with Suge and Tupac, as he, in their opinion, had featured too many guest appearances by East Coast rappers in his music video for Lady Heroin. And Suge was eager to give Tupac a chance to prove that he was embracing his gangster side. So basically, all of the forces combined to not be a good night for Mr. Sam Snead. When Sam refused to say that Dr. Dre was a homosexual, you better say it. You better say he's a homosexual. I hope it was that. I hope it wasn't a slur. It wasn't even the word gay. It was homo. You better say he's a homosexual. Clinically tell me. When he refused to say Dr. Dre was a homosexual, apparently something that Knight wanted to push on his artists now. I love that was a corporate policy at Death Row. I hope there were little memos about it that they all got. Dr. Dre is now a homosexual. Suge had Tupac and a few members of Tupac's group, the Outlaws, assault Snead right there in the restaurant. To add, and this is where the gangster shit comes in, to add to the humiliation, they made the battered Snead join them at the table without even going to the bathroom to clean up. As an example for other attendees, he had Snead sit there and eat dinner, bloody and bruised, with his clothes disheveled. God damn, that has got to be in a movie. That is some fucking movie shit right there.
Everything about Suge Knight should have been like, it should have been a Scorsese movie, it seems like.
Like, that is some shit that you would see in Goodfellas, and I don't know, I've not seen it in a while, maybe it's in there, but the fact that they beat the fuck out of him, he's bloody, and he's like, you eat that, man. What, you don't like your steak? You don't like your steak, Sam? Eat that steak. Eat that fucking steak, Sam.
That's just domination on a whole, like you beat the shit out of a guy, And like, that's not bad enough. You made him sit there in a puddle of his own piss and tears and blood and eat the nice steak dinner that you paid for him. Like,
And
how
he was saying that shit
more
too.
dominate somebody than doing that?
Something tells me that Suge really excelled in prison. After that, Sneed simply never returned to the death row offices, even though it cost him his never-released debut album. Think about that. He already had an entire album recorded. And like he was like one of the next big things. I mean, like the article said, he was on Dr. Dre's debut album. He was on Snoop Dogg's debut album. He was doing like shit with Dre. And because of that, he just never came back. I'm good. I'm going to go work at Target now. I'm good.
Suge Knight sent the motherfuckers to Target to get a job.
He said, quote, "I've never seen those people again, and that's a good thing." Well, you fucking think? But lest we think that good old Suge Knight is sexist in any way, no sirree, Bob. He is an equal opportunist. Melissa Isaac in 2008. Now, again, we've already left out the fact that he was, like we said, he was in the car with Tupac when Tupac got shot. For years, there have been rumors and books and theories posited that somehow Suge was behind the assassination of Tupac, who was thinking about leaving his record label. We're not even talking about all the prison time that he did. There's just too much. So this is after Suge gets out of prison. He had no qualms about attacking women half his size. Just ask his ex-wives, Sherith Golden, who took out a restraining order against Suge in 1987 after an assault that included the forced cutting of her ponytail. God damn. And Michelle Toussaint, whose jaw was dislocated by the man. So again, Suge Knight, it's not all fun assaults. You know, it's not all sending the booty goons.
I'm gonna go ahead.
It's not all booty goons.
I'm gonna go ahead and say the chick that got her ponytail cut off. I just go ahead and call that a win. The fact that you don't have to eat your next 40 meals through a straw, that's a victory when it comes to old Suge.
Anytime. If I attended the same stadium concert that Suge Knight was in the neighborhood of, I would consider it a win if I made it out alive. Like I'm like the motherfucker's like Batman. He's like the legend grows.
Yeah.
You know how when you play the goddamn Arkham games and you're in one of those Predator levels where there's like 9 guys and you got to take them out one by one, and then the last guy like walks around scared shitless. That's how people had to be around Suge Knight all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Just like in that goddamn game. Though after death row's fall from prominence following Tupac's murder, Suge's 8-year incarceration, and exodus of every last artist, Knight was far from on top, but that didn't stop him from attacking whomever pissed him off, including his girlfriend in 2008, Melissa Isaac. The couple were en route to a strip club in August of that year, because, of course he was. Of course. Can this motherfucker ever go to goddamn church or the grocery store?
Are you really that mad that Suge's not going to church every Sunday?
Do you think he would? You're throwing Christmas parties. They're going to a titty bar, and he gets a phone call from another woman. Oh my God, Suge was a cheater too? No, to say it ain't so.
No, that I don't believe.
When his girlfriend Melissa asked him about it, he beat the shit out of her. Of course. She dragged the steering wheel into a collision with the curb and attempted to run, but of course, Suge caught her and beat her unconscious. Jeez. Witnesses saw him kicking her. He was giving her a Garvin stomp. God damn it. Then he stripped her naked and he left. God damn, that is the worst shit
it's
ever.
Like his
when the
favorite
police,
thing to do is beat people up and strip them naked.
Yeah, when the Popo apprehended Suge later that night, they charged him with narcotics as well, which had to be a sign of his deteriorating state after death row fell apart, because Suge never did drugs in his prime. Well, that's good to know. There's not enough role models out there. Things got really scary there for a minute when Melissa was nowhere to be found on the day she was supposed to testify against Knight. Many, of course, speculated that he had made her go missing, but she eventually turned up, and apparently, instead of killing her, he just convinced her to skip the date. Well, I'm sure that was a pleasant conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure he called and asked very nicely.
There are two super quick ones I want to get to just to show you this motherfucker was a T-1000. In 2014, when Suge was still out, probably assaulting women left and right like the piece of shit that he was at a party, MTV VMA pre-party, and he got fucking shot and managed to walk to the ambulance. It's just...
Have you seen this boy?
He was shot 6 times and still was able to just casually walk to the ambulance.
Jesus.
Knight refused to cooperate with law enforcement in the matter. Party attendee Jeezy later claimed on The Breakfast Club that he would have been shot had he not been pushed out of the way just prior to the shooting. Look, good guy Suge. There's not enough stories about good guy Suge. Oh, but old Suge's in prison now, though, unfortunately. On October 29th, 2014, Knight and comedian Cat Williams. I love it. Of course, the two craziest people I know. They were both arrested and charged with second-degree robbery in connection with an alleged theft of a camera from a paparazzi. And then on January 2015, he crashed his car into 2 men, killing one of them. Apparently, they had gotten into a little spat, and security camera footage showed Knight following them. And when they stopped at a burger stand, he drove his car directly into them. Suge Knight claimed it was, quote, self-defense. That takes some balls. You ram your, you know it was an Escalade. You ram your goddamn Escalade into two dudes eating a fucking burger, and you say, oh, it was self-defense. What do you want me to fucking do? What do you want me to do? Well, I tell you what we want you to do. Follow us on all forms of social media at Obtuse Podcast. That's where you can suggest ideas to us, like we have had so many on this show before. Coming up, we're going to be doing some more true crime. It's been a little bit since I guess this was a bunch of true crime this week. We're also going to be doing more rock and roll stories in the future. Don't forget about that. Like we said, subscribe to us. Speaking of social media, I'm at Funnyman Fields. He's at Sutherland JB. And also, don't forget, we got a brand new YouTube and Facebook series, man. We're going to be doing videos where we riff on the news. So it's not going to be content that you can find here on this show. That's also going to be on YouTube. And as if you are one of our subscribers on YouTube, you see that we've been uploading a whole bunch of shit there. And we got more on the way. So again, subscribe to us here wherever you find your podcast. If you don't want to do that for some insane reason, obtuseangles.libsyn.com. Make sure you follow us on Facebook to see those videos where we riff on the news, like that page. And we are going to see you back here every single Monday as we are delivered directly to your digital doorstep. Jeremiah, what do you say? You tell them goodbye.
Goodbye.